Well, good day, everyone. Club Grubbery time again, and it's always good to be back on screen with you, Johnny Larder.
Mate, great to be back and probably our favourite lineup, wouldn't you say, Hoodie?
Yeah, well, look, a lot of people don't like him very much. There's a little garden gnome in Katoomba that doesn't like him very much, but we love him. And of course, we're talking about Aneeta Hafemeister from the Australian Vaccine Risk Network and Rosemary Marshal, an activist also working with that network and doing great work, especially in the Sydney area with Forest of the Fallen. And she's done a bit of pharmacy whispering herself. We had a wonderful guy on the other day. What was his name again? I forgot.
George.
George
George
Keswick.
Keswick, yeah, my mate
George Keswick.
George. He's
Yeah.
picked up the ball and run with it, hasn't he?
Oh, he has. And I reiterate, a guy contacted me from Coffs Harbour and said he went into a pharmacy and asked the pharmacist, could he bring his 14-year-old son in to get a COVID booster? And the pharmacist said, sure, bring him in. And then he said, oh, I'm surprised he said yes. He said, why would I say no? He said, oh, haven't you read the vaccine risk, sorry, the handbook, the immunisation handbook? And he pulled it out and showed him. It says you're not meant to be doing it. And the guy said, oh, crap. I had no idea. He said, no, I'm not going to do it then. I won't be doing it. So, I mean, there's ways and means. There's ways and means. So,
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. People still think this is going to be all right. You either know everything or you know nothing, it seems. That seems to be the lie of the land that I'm witnessing.
yeah, exactly. It's just craziness. Anyway, we do what we do. Now, Aneeta, you took the big black bus out, and we spoke to you both before you went out. And what was Rosemary like as a passenger?
Oh, she was fabulous, Hoodie. She's just feisty and sarcastic and wonderful, and she's just all heart though. She's all heart for the job, and it's quite an experience on that bus. It's hard to explain to people that haven't been on it, but it's you see the worst of humanity and the best of humanity, and usually within the same 5 minutes. It's quite extraordinary. We saw so many horrific stories. And Rosie she just carried on like a trooper. We were just keeping the water up to her and making she was okay. And she was doing all the interviews. And no, she's just absolutely incredible. No, it was an incredible trip, wasn't it, Rosie?
It was a very profound experience for me. It took me a few days to get over it, to be honest, because there was so much to distill. And then you come back into the mainstream news. I mean, I just had the news on this morning. I was just watching a bit of Sky News where they're so puzzled about autism and why is 1 in 6 little boys autistic? Everyone's very puzzled and baffled. And a couple of MPs were about to scoot back into session saying, oh, yes, we're going to make sure that the autistic children are going to be looked after, even though they won't be on NDIS. But no one wants to know why they're autistic. I just find it's almost like they're playing with us, that they just refuse to look at why. It's
Johnny,
really uncomfortable.
you sent me that clip on iView, Four Corners, the latest episode on Four Corners at the 24-minute mark. A guy who's responsible for NDIS housing came out and said, well, we're going to have to increase this housing because of all the autism, so many people with autism, because people are vaccinating their kids. And he
Wow.
actually said it. And then the reporter said, you're saying that the autism rates are rising because of childhood vaccinations. He said, absolutely, they are. And they then came in with a disclaimer. We checked it out with health experts, and there's no evidence to back up that claim. I mean, Johnny, you have to look for evidence, don't you?
Well, I found it bizarre that they even let that slip in. They were running an investigation into the housing network that's attached to the NDIS, and that in itself is another story. What's going on there? All these vacant houses everywhere. They're built for disability, and thinking that they're going to get hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in rent. I mean, some of these people must be on another planet. I mean, I just don't know how you think that you would get hundreds of thousands in rent. I mean, it just tells you how much advantage has been taken of this NDIS nonsense. It needs to almost have a royal commission of its very own. But look, it's comforting to see President Trump in a large roundtable discussion in the last 48 hours with RFK Jr. pressed him, and he said, "Bobby, the horror of this autism. What can you tell us?" And RFK has said that he will be making an announcement in September in relation to that. And also, Asim Malholtra's put out a tweet saying that it's likely the mRNA vaccines will be halted. Look, let's just keep our fingers crossed and say a few prayers that that is all good news in September. I believe it will be. I think they're just getting their ducks in a row, and
I hope so.
let's see.
Now,
Hope so.
Aneeta, would you be confident that if America came out and said, yes, the autism rates are linked to childhood vaccines and we're going to drop the mRNA, are you confident that the Australian government will follow suit?
Not confident, but I think they'd have a very hard time covering that up, Hoodie. If that's all across the US media and that's what comes out, I mean, I've no doubt they will drag their feet as much as possible. They will. But they're coming kicking and screaming to this, but they're all coming. Because as we've said for years, there's just too many bodies under the rug now. There's just too much. Like everyone knows someone who's vaccine injured or autistic, or there's just too many. So I think they'll come kicking and screaming, but they will come there. I mean, as much as they disparage Kennedy and that he is in that position of power, and I'm really intrigued to see what he's going to announce in September. I want to know what he's been looking at and what data he's been able to get to be so confident that he's going to make this announcement. So, I mean, but we don't need the studies. If you go on the bus, that's the science. You see the science. If it's just all those stories added together, it's what was amazing with this tour was the difference from 2020. When we toured in 2020 with that bus, everywhere we went, we got the most vile hatred you can imagine. We got kicked out of a caravan park because he didn't like our politics. Like, we really went through it. And I'm very, very sad to find out that now we are welcome everywhere, and everywhere you go, someone has a horror story of vaccine injury. Every caravan park we stayed in, when we stopped to fuel up at a servo, one of the guys who I went in to pay the money to, he said, "I like your bus." I said, "Yep, thanks." And he said, "I didn't take any." Oh, I said, "Okay." I said, "Do you know anyone who's vaccine injured?" He said, "Yes, I know someone who had Bell's palsy and a stroke straight after the vaccine." So, it's just these quiet whispers. People aren't loud, but wow, there's just, these excess death numbers. I believe them because we saw them everywhere we went. We got cheered. We got honks. We got people at bus stops like saying, "Hooray, good on you." And that was really sobering and saddening, actually, because we didn't want to be right. In 2020, we wanted to be wrong when we were trying to warn people like this new technology is coming. And I don't think it's going to be good, because I can tell you how horrific the last ones have been. And in the bus, we actually keep a record of all the numbers that people sign on the bus. So we got a little bit of like their name and what vaccine they're injured by. And it's really tragic to look through the book now, because the first, 6 pages are all MMR vaccine, Gardasil, Hep B, flu vaccine, childhood vaccines, all these injuries and deaths. And then you get halfway through and you get to when we started touring after the COVID jabs. And it's Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, and so many of them are deaths. I hadn't realised how many death stories Meryl had done from the COVID jabs. And, there's no "I told you so." There's just a horror that it had to get this bad for us to finally be heard, because, man, we tried. I don't know what else we could have tried to be heard. We got a bus in the end because we were so desperate to be heard. And I'm so sorry we're here, but yay for Kennedy. We might actually finally be getting some traction on this, and some real science and some real informed consent. That would be nice.
Informed consent, absolutely.
Informed consent? Let's, if only. Look, I just, I think that the popularity of the bus and what you guys are doing is sad for you, says a lot about who you are as human beings. You don't enjoy doing this.
No.
And when I see the attacks that you leveled at you on social media by people who are social misfits, they are absolute social misfits, these people. If only they could look back, and maybe one day they will have a chance to reflect on some of the putrid comments that they've made about the misfortunes of those who've been injured and died. There'll be a gnashing of teeth. These people need to rethink totally where they're at mentally, because you're not doing anything other than trying to warn people and highlight. And it's said clearly, Johnny, later in the stats where the booster rates are down to 5% of the population now, which is, I hate to say it, but it's great news. It's
Well,
great news.
I don't know if it's true, but I'm going to find out. I heard that a federal politician in the lower house from the Melbourne area yesterday was pushing the Moderna.
He was.
Yeah,
Monique Ryan it was, yeah.
Monique Ryan, yeah.
Loving those Moderna jabs. I wish she'd met some people on Saturday whose mother had 3 strokes after each one.
Because as people may or may not know, there is a Moderna plant that's just been built in Melbourne, around the CBD there on the fringes, and it is an absolute disgrace that in light of this. I mean, this is unbelievable, really, when you think that the US is on the cusp of actually banning these mRNA products. But the government have invested in a facility with Moderna in Australia, I think 2 of them, to make these products. I mean, these people are sick.
Yeah. Billions of doses they're making. It's just unthinkable.
Monique Ryan's a Neanderthal. She is not only in this whole area as well, but her politics are corrupted in thought, at least, if not other ways as well. So, she nearly lost her seat in the election. Sadly, she didn't. But these people are going to have to face the music one day. And, I don't want to be in their shoes when they do, because the people are waking up. They certainly are. So everyone knew that this recent tour that you've done was going to cause flack in the Blue Mountains. Tell us about what happened in the Blue Mountains.
Well, we'd had long discussions about where we were going to park in Katoomba this time round. And actually, about a week before we turned up there, we said, you know what? It's a Saturday. Let's just go to the council building because, we might be able to put our case forward in person finally as to why we should be allowed to at least park in the Katoomba area. We thought that was a very reasonable thing. Anyway, to our delight, on the Friday before we went, the darling mayor up there, Mark Greenhill, just absolutely went off on like a pork chop on his social media about this bus and how we weren't allowed and how awful we were and all the things. And it was just beautiful because he thinks it's still 2020, Hoodie, and it's 2025. So the amount of support we got online, we couldn't have paid for the publicity we got. We're so thankful now because all of that just helped. He must have spent that whole Friday night with repetitive strain injury blocking people because we sent so many thousands of people his page and he blocked them all. All my friends were messaging me constantly going, I got blocked. It was just constant. So that was hilarious. Anyway, so we did park at the council building the next morning, and sadly Mark was not there to greet us, which we were rather sad about. But we did, and this is breaking news, we did receive a fine in the mail yesterday for $140. Yeah, although we will be disputing it because the signage for where we parked, we took a photo of the sign. It was from Monday to Friday were the hours listed on the sign. So on a Saturday, there was no signage there whatsoever. So we will be disputing that. Although I don't know, I'm very, very, very glad that he finally followed through on something. We were quite disappointed with everything he was doing, really. But he's just unbelievable. I laugh and joke about it, but for the constituents of his that came to the bus with their horrific injury stories, what a smack in the face. What an absolute smack in the face that he's saying, you know what? You don't exist, or I don't believe you, or you don't count. What a horrific thing to do. As much as we were making light of it, what an awful, awful human being. And John can probably comment on this, that, Mark Greenhill put in his post that he was going to fine us, and then he was going to make sure that money went to some sort of pro-vaccination cause. I mean, John, what right does he have as a mayor to say where the revenue goes? What can he do with that?
No, well, look, that's absolutely outrageous. He should have no ability to do that. And in fact, the fact that he's even forecasting that he's going to send you a fine, would be, a disgrace as well. I mean, he's not delegated under under any act to issue a fine. I mean, he has no ability to impose that. So, and let alone decide where the money goes at the back end of it. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, and this is the problem with some of these organisations, this is sort of not in the same league, but I mean, the RSPCA is another one. Now, the RSPCA, from the best of my knowledge, they pursue a lot of people for acts of cruelty, and they fine people very heavily. And say for instance somebody's got a dog and they love the dog, and they want to hold on to the dog, and somebody makes a complaint, so the dog's suffering. The RSPCA comes out and says, "Oh yes, it's suffering. You haven't taken it to the vet enough. We're going to give you a $10,000 fine because you've been cruel to animals," and that money goes to them. So it's one of these organisations where somehow or other the fines end up coming back to them. So it's really it's in their interest to fine people. I mean, because it makes their bottom line look better. So look, the councils I think are in probably the same position. I'm not sure that it goes to consolidated state revenue. I'm pretty sure it probably remains with the council. So once again, it's a very similar situation. So yeah, but even just to make those comments, I mean, he should be accountable to the Office of Local Government for being for carrying on the way he did. I mean, that to me is a code of conduct for his behaviour on social media.
Yeah.
I'd reckon if somebody in the Blue Mountains Shire moved the Port Hedland motion in council, one of his first means of defence would be to say council's not meant to get involved in this kind of thing. We're not involved in health. Well, Mark Greenhill, you have been. You little garden gnome, you cute little thing you are. You're a cute little thing. Yeah, I could see you and Alan Joyce together in a garden setting somewhere, looking like Smurfs. I shouldn't have said that, John. You should have stopped me from saying that. But it is
on a few occasions.
It is what it is. Normally, I shy away from some of your remarks, but that should go on. And I think kudos to you guys. What a coup to be threatened not to go there and then to park out the front. And I hope you take it to court. I hope you take the fine to court. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would fund that action. I mean, that is so wrong at every different level. I remember meeting the mayor of the Tenterfield Shire about 10 years ago, telling him, the work we were doing for the community where we live. And he said, look, I can help you in so many ways, but he said, I can't help you on operational matters. Well, that's an operational matter, I would have thought, John. And he's got no right.
None.
No right. But I mean, yeah, good on him. And good on him for bringing attention to himself and to the AVN Vaxxed bus. Fantastic.
Well, and I would encourage anyone that was down there and witnessed, what went on, because look, at the end of the day, the actions of those council officers surely has been influenced by the mayor. The fact that they were even on site there, ready with their pads to issue a fine, demonstrates that there has, could have been some orchestration by the mayor in that whole situation. It needs to be investigated. I'm not suggesting that he did, but I think that the Office of Local Government should receive as many complaints about this as possible, and there should be an investigation. I mean, here he is threatening to fine you, and when you turn up, you just happen to have the council officers on site with their fine pads ready to go. I mean, it doesn't look good, does it?
No.
No, it doesn't.
No, we didn't really see the guy that wrote the fine. Like, it was all very, like, we had people coming and going. Then at one stage there was, I guess it was the council guy finest, just quietly got out of his car because we were all under the roof. It was actually raining. We're under the roof at the council building waiting for Mark. And the bus was over a little bit further. And this guy just walked around the bus quietly and wrote something down and left quietly. Like he did not speak to us at all. No one was talked to about it. He just, and we assumed we didn't really know what that was, but we guess that's what happened. So he didn't announce himself or ask us any questions, because we actually did have a council officer come up to us in Gosford, because we didn't have venues everywhere. A few places we did just park, and Gosford was one of them. But he came late in the day and he was very apologetic, and he was like, look, just doing my job. But, that's what they always say to us, and that grates me more than anything, is the just doing my job, because that's what they're doing. But he was quite reasonable, and, we had a nice chat to him, and he said, as long as you're not camping or you're going to go today and you're off, we're like, yep, no worries. I just play dumb. I just play the dumb farmer card. It's beautiful wherever I go. I'm like, oh, what are the rules here? Oh, really? Oh, okay, sorry. Didn't know about that. Yeah, next time, sure, no worries. And then in Newcastle, we had a lovely young bureaucrat council member also come along to talk to us, which Mick Sims did film, and that went quite viral on social media, his discussions with us. But we had a local councillor there who was on side, who spoke to him before he left, saying, look, I'm in total agreement with what these people are doing here. So, there were discussions about getting a boat trailer for the bus, because, it was like we're like the boat overflow car park where no one ever parks and all these things. It is who we are. Like, they would not fine anyone else for doing the things we do. They just wouldn't. It's just who we are. And they say they get all these phone calls to council. Well, I'm sure as soon as we announce where we are, all the trolls with a phone that council and start complaining, because that's what they do. Because, even this time we didn't announce venues till the day before, because we still know the attacks we get. Going forward, we think we actually might release them a few weeks before and see how we go and see how brave people are going to be now, because, I'm a little over the cat and mouse, as much as it's a game and all the rest of it. We've been playing these bloody lose your venue games for a lot of years now, and I'm kind of over it. I'm kind of hoping people will just get a backbone and stand up with us. And it might happen now, because there's so many injuries out there.
Yeah, I know when we were doing the Community of Unity tour, there were a few threats. If we turned up at a certain venue, there was going to be trouble. And we just kept turning up, and nobody ever showed up. They never show up. They're just, they hide in their mother's basements, and they're very brave on their keyboard. But at the end of the day, everyone's held to account, and you can't duck your conscience every minute of the day, Johnny. At some level, you've got to stand in the shadow of your own conscience, and that's how it's going to go. But Rosie, this was your first time on the Vaxxed bus.
It was huge.
Would you do another one?
Well, I'd love to do another one. I found it so moving meeting people. The experience on the Vaxxed bus is quite different from at Forest of the Fallen. Forest of the Fallen, we meet people almost incidentally. They cruise by and they get talking and they say, oh, yes, my mother had, or like the people we met on Saturday, they talked about one of their sons was very severely injured. He was the young man in the army who was one of 40, and 15 of them got heart trouble after Pfizer injections. We get stories like that, which obviously are devastating. But on the Vaxxed bus, I think the saddest ones were the families who had an injured child, and then the parent had to take, and this was a couple of families, or three families that spring to mind, who had to take the COVID injections themselves as parents, even though they had vaccine-injured children. And then the repercussions of that were very disastrous. And just to see the mayhem that these evil injections have caused for their children and their own health was really quite devastating. They were very brave people. So it was meeting families like that I think had the most profound impact. It's very hard to imagine what day-to-day life is like for families in that situation, where they have a child who's severely on the spectrum, who's awake all night, bouncing off the walls at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they're injured as well. The parent has heart problems. I mean, in one family, the wife actually thinks she's been shedded on as well, just to add to their woes. She's been having a bit of heart trouble, but the husband was severely injured, and their young son, who's now 13, has been damaged by childhood injections. So when you look at that whole scenario and you feel and see the tears, it's pretty devastating to witness, frankly. Very devastating to witness.
So you're talking to people who are at that point where they say, oh my God, what have I done?
My feeling is, what have they done to them? not what have I done? They've done everything. This particular person, Peter, he won't mind me saying it because he wants to get the word out. He took 2 Pfizer injections so he could take his autistic boy Lachlan to swimming. The pool insisted that he was injected. I mean, it's beyond belief how stupid that all was. And on his second Pfizer, and he said, look, I went along not too worried, thinking that, look, I'm doing the right thing. I must make sure I can keep Lachlan swimming up. And he was enjoying it, and it was just working well for them. And on the second one, he actually got a bad batch. And heartbreakingly, I met another young woman, Tennille, who got the same batch, and they had very similar injuries. It was terrible hearing the injuries. I mean, Tennille had 2 pages of finely printed injuries. There was something like 140 problems she had. And Peter had had 3 brushes with cancer. He had serious neurological issues and very, very bad heart issues from this same evil batch. It was just shocking.
Now, the trolls are going to be calling these people anti-vaxxers. They're not anti-vaxxers, you idiot, because they're injured from taking the vaccine. And you ignoring that is only going to make the situation worse. We need remedy. We need the powers that be working. The health department should be working and spending large sums of money trying to remedy this mistake and put things right. But you're only adding to it. You're only adding to the misery and making it worse. And eventually it's going to catch up with you too.
I just hope the victims of these injections never see what the trolls write about them. I mean, there's someone writing about Caitlin Goetz saying that she didn't die of a COVID injection, and that beautiful young kid Faith, that was all just in her mind. I mean, these people fantasize, and I think it's out of fear because they've taken these themselves and they're terrified they're going to have the same fate. But the ones that they try to pick on people that they describe as having nebulous side effects. But when it's happening to these people, it doesn't look too nebulous to me. It's absolutely diabolical what they're going through. Another really sad one, if you've got a moment, was an elderly gentleman called Danny. We met him at, I think
Gosford.
It was Gosford. Yes. Danny was quite elderly and he staggered over to the Vax bus. So he was really having difficulty with his mobility. And he came to us saying, I was hoping you might be able to give me something that would help me. I'm really not well. And he'd been talked into taking 4 of these injections and the outcome was diabolical. Anyway, back to the doctor he went, and the doctor prescribed him something that cost him $1,200. And he said, oh, this will sort you out. And Danny was really relieved because in the short term, he was feeling quite a lot better, but his feeling better only lasted for about a month. And he was back at the doctor again, and the doctor said, no, there's nothing more we can do if that didn't work. But the thing I found the most shocking was had he been injured by getting COVID, this $1,200 bill, which he clearly could ill afford, would have been paid for by the government. But because it's a vaccine injury, he had to wear the cost himself. And he was devastated with it all. He had no family, no one to support him. And I said to him, can we drive you back home? And he said, oh, no, I need to keep struggling on. It was a very, very heartbreaking interlude meeting that gentleman. It really was shocking to see what he'd gone through. And it was all so unnecessary. It was really sad.
Johnny.
Well, I think that's what's heartbreaking about all this. Coincidence only. You can only put so much of it down to coincidence. I mean, when you're walking in the shoes of people like Aneeta and Rosemary and hearing these stories daily, I watched one the other day. Rosemary, you were talking to a gentleman at the beach, a younger fella that was fairly solid.
Mitch,
and he
great
had
guy.
Heart issues after the vaccines. And these nut jobs, and they are nut jobs that have this cooker page, were essentially saying that it was all nonsense. I mean, it just beggars belief to me that these people do this stuff, and it is damaging. And look, part of the reason why we're I think experiencing a lot of this stuff going on outside of the vaccines at the moment and the vaccine injuries, in this country, and there's a lot of turmoil going on. I think it's because these people are stirring it up. I mean, what we're saying here is pretty simple, that there has been a vaccination program which clearly, via evidence, has got multiple issues with it, and it needs to be looked at the very minimum. I mean, I would say, in some respects, halted with regard to certain products. There is no doubt, but at the very minimum, looked at, and a genuine pause, and let's have a look at what's going on. I mean, how is it that in the United States, for instance, that when in 1986, I think you had three childhood vaccines by 24 months. I think it's 29 or something now.
43 before they're 4 years old now in Australia. And if you're Aboriginal, you get 47. And what distresses me really greatly is they brought forward the 3-year-old vaccines to give to 18-month-old ones. So these little children are getting a jab in each limb, and every jab has 3 diseases. So the child's getting 12 diseases. How can anybody, let alone a child of what, I don't know how much they'd weigh, about 10 or 12 kilograms, how could a child tolerate that kind of onslaught? And it does beg the question. Most parents only observe, or certainly the parents I met on the bus, they observed a big change in their children post-2, and when the child was going to daycare, and sort of between 2 and 3. But obviously it's going to be much easier to discern that change after a child is 3. And it does make me question as to whether they brought that forward to disguise the damage they're doing to the 18-month-old, whereas with a 3-year-old, it would be much more obvious. Perhaps that's a very cynical view, but it makes me feel sick to the pit of my stomach to think that that might be the agenda.
So much in what you said too earlier there, John. These people are branding Faith Ranson as a fake. She was one of the first identified as a vaccine injured by the policies, by the government, by the health department. She is a registered vaccine injury. And what that kid has been through, and we've interviewed her several times, and what her family has been through, to have some goose who can't even use his real name say that that's a fake, it just doesn't pass the pub test anywhere. And all that the 4 of us are saying is very, very simple. And please, if you're one of these idiots, take this on board. If you thought that someone was tampering with your DNA or your immune system, would you like to know about it? And if you say no, you're a fool. Because why wouldn't you? If you thought someone was breaking into your house, would you like to know about it? That's what we're talking about. We're not trying to grandstand and make big fellas of ourselves. We think it's that serious. And if our DNA is not being tampered with and our immune system is not being tampered with, then please show us the evidence. Please come out and tell us. That's all we're asking for. That's all we're asking for. And yet there's all this division. I said in a comment to somebody the other day, I remember growing up in Australia where the only division was if you drove a Holden or a Falcon. Mm-hmm. If you were a Ford man or a Holden man, that was the division. And either side thought that the other guy was an idiot. We've gone way beyond that now. We're divided on every bloody thing. Everything is dividing us. You can't have people doing a community service with this Vax bus go somewhere without some idiot wanting to abuse them and belittle them. Is this the country we're fighting for? This is nuts. This is absolute garbage. Everyone's offended. You've got garden gnomes running around trying to lord it over everyone because they've got Duck's disease, small man syndrome. I mean, all this stuff has got to come to an end. It's stupid. And look at the result. People are dying because of this division and bitterness. People are dying because they're not getting treated, because doctors and the medical profession are refusing to acknowledge that this has been caused by vaccines. So that whole thing, doctors are saying, look, we don't know what's going on with you, but could it be the vaccine? Oh, no, it's not the vaccine. We know it's not the vaccine. Well, how can you say that if you don't know what the causes are? And this has got to stop. It's been 5 years now. The evidence is coming out. We're looking forward to what's going to happen in September, and more power to the Australian Vaccine Risk Network, because they will go down in history as heroes, these people. And are they doing it because they just want the notoriety? No, they're not. Most of them have had vaccine-injured children or know of people who've been in that that position, and this madness has to stop. And I want to say there's a stigma on anybody who attacks these people because it shows you clearly have a mental deficiency.
They're not very curious, that's for sure.
Well, these coronial jurisdictions need an absolute toweling up too. I mean, what are they doing? How come they're not doing their job? And they're not, as far as I'm concerned. How do you end up with a situation where babies die from SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, and there is no reporting, no correlation of when they were vaccinated and the death? I mean, it would be easy for these jurisdictions to compile this information, and I'm sure if you put it on a spreadsheet, it'd be horrific. Paramedics, doctors, and nurses would not be talking about this as being an issue otherwise. They see it every day, and it's an absolute disgrace that these coronial jurisdictions are covering all this nonsense up.
I believe it's 97%. Sorry.
We had quite a viral interview on the bus in 2020 with a woman who came to tell her story of her SIDS death daughter in the 90s. And she was actually contacted by the coroner privately. And he said, yes, send me the medical records. And he looked at all the medical records and he said, yes, your daughter was killed by vaccines. It's well known that SIDS is caused by vaccines, but I will never admit to that because I will lose my job. So the coroners know. Now, I don't know what's more horrific, that they know the vaccines are doing it and that they keep quiet about it. The silence has been deafening. I mean, I still have a lot of rage at all the doctors, coroners, nurses who've stayed silent all these years because they want to keep their job. I struggle mightily with that. I mean, I know I'm just a farmer and I've had nothing to lose through any of this. We're all sitting very pretty, even through all this COVID garbage. But for the people that know, I still don't know how they sleep at night. That's the only reason I started down this crazy, crazy journey I've been on, is so I could sleep at night and so I could look my kids in the eye, because there is so much horror out there. It is a horror movie being on that bus. And while you're dealing with the horror movie, you're dealing with all the idiots telling you you are the scum of the earth. So I'm so sorry it had to come to this. And all the trolls who say we make it all up, I wish I was. I wish I was evil enough and psycho enough to make up all the stuff I've heard, because I wish I was wrong. Every step of this journey, I have wished I was completely wrong. But the more I get into it, the worse it gets. So I don't know the answer in all this, but yeah, the bus is going to keep on bussing until this madness ends and we finally get some choice. We need to scrap no jab, no pay. And we need to get some honesty and everything, because I've just about had it, to be honest.
Childhood vaccine, the mandates for children going to childcare is absolutely the most heinous thing I've ever known. I think we're the only country in the world that does that to our children. And we've got Scott Morrison to thank for that. And just on the subject of SIDS, I just posted yesterday, 97% of SIDS babies were vaccinated within the week prior. So how can they possibly deny it? How can
our own grandson is one of those.
Oh,
our own grandson, 3 weeks old. You mentioned the phone call from the coroner. We've got to keep it anonymous and all of that. I'm sorry if that coroner's listening. You're part of the problem. If you're not part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. When you put your job ahead of the lives and well-being of other people that you're meant to be protecting, you're part of the problem. There's no doubt in anybody's mind. That's the truth of it. You are going to have to look at yourselves in the mirror. And the doctors who tell me, oh, we're too scared to be deregistered. Well, lots of luck if half the doctors in the country were deregistered trying to run a health system. I cannot even countenance the thought of living a life like that where I can't look at myself in the mirror. I've done a lot of things in my life that I'm not happy about. I'm ashamed of, especially when I was a teenager and growing up. But I tell you what, I can look at myself now in the mirror and say, well, it needs a good ironing, whatever it is I'm looking at, but at least I don't revile from it. I don't want to vomit when I look at it. I don't know how you do that. And yet you're clearly upset, Aneeta, and,
It is. It's very upsetting. We shed a lot of tears on that bus. Yeah. So many stories. You know, this, talking of the doctors, there was a woman who came to see me at Narrabeen, to see us at Narrabeen, and she described how her sister died the most hideous death of turbo cancer, which resulted after her second Pfizer injection. And the doctor, when he discovered it, after he administered that second jab, so this woman could continue to work in aged care, he saw on the so-called consent form, she wrote, "I do not consent." And he destroyed that because he knew he'd broken the law. And when the lady who died went back to him to confirm her second vaccination, he said, "Oh, no, I didn't vaccinate you," because he realised he'd broken the law. What kind of a doctor is that?
That's not a doctor.
And she died. She died, that woman. And her sister was there telling me about it.
Well, I want to go back to Newcastle. Was there a bittersweet experience there? Did I read you wrong? Was there somebody sort of hassling you and then someone came out in favour of you in council?
Newcastle, I did send a council officer out. It was quite hysterically funny by the end of it because he didn't like our Forest of the Fall, and we said that was an art installation. And we said, well, what's the fine? What are you going to do? Are you going to bring the cops? And he didn't really know what he was going to do. I think he just hoped we'd move on. And no. We were going to get a boat trailer to park behind the bus because then we could keep the bus where it was. So we're like, yep, we'll get a boat trailer. And then we decided he should probably send down the art installation manager from the council to talk to us about the art installation and what fine might be involved there. And then after that ensued for about 15 minutes, yep, we agreed we'd get a trailer and he was going to send us the art installation manager. But then the local councillor who was actually there with us, she spoke to him on... Yes, she spoke to him on the way out for a lengthy period of time, and I didn't actually catch up with her after that to see what was said or what he said, but no one else hassled us for the rest of the day. So we kept our art installation. We never, the trailer didn't quite get there that day, but it would have if we'd really needed it to. So hence the ridiculous world that we inhabit, but we're used to it now.
Well, I'd like to give her a shout out. Her name was Vanessa Pollock. She was the Libertarian candidate of the Penrith Council, actually. And she was quite amused because we were taking up 3 bays. So taking up 5 with the trailer added on apparently was more acceptable than taking up 3 bays. So I'm not quite sure about the logic there. Anyway, that's the council.
There's no logic. Newcastle, the reason I asked about Newcastle is on the Community of Unity tour we did. We were booked at the Newcastle Civic Centre, I think it was, 1,000-seat venue, and lots of people were going to turn up. It was clearly going to be full. It was well promoted, and hours before we were due to do it, the council had reacted to complaints, and they said no, the Civic Centre was no longer available. The end result of that, though, was that we did, I think, 3 presentations in 3 other venues over 3 days in Newcastle, and we got even better results. Churches were saying, come and do it here. And we were getting packed houses in churches. So the small-mindedness of some of these people just leaves us breathless. But anyway, just keep doing what
we lost a Newcastle venue in 2017 when we toured and we had Polly and Dr. Suzanne Humphreys and that over. We lost our venue in Newcastle and had to find one at last minute. And then that venue got very much attacked because when they were about to screen the film, the lady who was in charge of that venue came forward very scared. And it almost got a bit ugly because all the people were saying, don't you dare kick us out now. Like, this is not happening. You're going to let us have this film. But she ended up just saying, look, I'm just saying we're not saying we agree with you people or we agree with all this, but, basically you can stay because that was the second venue there after pretty horror show. But no, this time in Newcastle, we had a sports club that's very freedom friendly and very on side. And tragically, we're talking to the young man there who was working for the day. And they had family members lost to the COVID vaccine and he himself was Gardasil injured. Like, it's just everywhere, Hoodie. When I say it's everywhere, it's everywhere. When we went to park the bus where the bus is currently housed, the lady there we were talking to, her mother died a week after a flu vaccine. Like, she had a flu vaccine and she went rapidly downhill and died. And, it's always a coincidence. Always these miraculous coincidences we see everywhere. And it's everywhere. Like, when you ask people, when you scratch that surface, I'm not kidding. It was a horror show this time. It was an absolute bloody horror show. It was just mind-blowing. Like, all these people, I just wish everyone could spend a week on the bus. Just spend a week on the bus and tell me we're wrong and tell me we're crazy. Because, and people who not used us, but a lot of people come to us as therapy as well. Like there's a few interviews on the bus, but a lot of it, the talk is outside the bus of people who don't want to go on film and they just want to hug and support from people who will believe them and listen to them. Because so many people have lost friends, they've lost family, and the trauma is real. Like in Port Macquarie, we had this lady came and talked to us for about 2 hours. Her children were vaccine injured in the 90s, and she was still crying with the guilt of what she'd done to them then. She was crying. Like she just, she needed that space for us to just get that out. It's just, I don't know. I don't have a degree in counselling, but my Lord, it's been an interesting journey.
And what about that gentleman who came to us at Katoomba? He didn't want to be recorded, but he ran a particular kind of service. I won't go into it in case it's identifiable, but he had 600 people who'd come to him every year because of what he was providing. And when this all started up, he thought, right, I'm going to make a note of this because I can see trouble brewing. And he said out of the 600 people who he sees annually, 400 of them had had a family member injured or killed by these injections.
Good grief.
He was a very interesting man, that one. He made he said, I did it on a spreadsheet. Everyone who's injured or killed, 400 out of 600 in Katoomba. I wonder how if the mayor knows that, one of his constituents.
Probably went right over his head, which wouldn't be hard. Johnny, final comments? We've got to bring this one to a close, but it's been pretty moving program tonight.
Well, look, Hoodie, I'm really grateful to see that the sentiment across Australia is warming to listening to what's going on. I think that's heartening. The fact that the guys have been welcomed more than they've been opposed demonstrates that I think there is an awakening of what's going on and an acceptance. A reluctant acceptance, but there is one, and I think we just have to keep pressing on with this. And the fact that these guys are actually here and able to talk freely about this, and it's being spread on social media is a great step forward from where they were 5-10 years ago. So to get it to this point, hats off to you guys. Your determination, your vigilance, your tenacity, to setting this straight and warning people is remarkable, and it just demonstrates what can be achieved. And hopefully, as a result of this, there will be a pause, and we can save so many future generations from this horrific and painful existence, and in some cases death.
A full stop would be best, frankly. That's what I'm aiming for. I won't stop till we get the full stop. I know you won't either, Aneeta. We want the full stop, don't we?
Yeah, I think we're with you. We're with you on that. Mark Twain once said it's a lot easier to con somebody than it is to convince them that they've been conned. And that's what we're fighting against. That's what this is all about. We didn't come into this fight to deal with any other issues other than we wanted the vaccines to stop. We wanted the borders kept open. We wanted people to get their jobs back. We wanted the mandates to be a thing of the past, and we wanted a Royal Commission. But most of all, we wanted people to be able to decide whether their children were vaccinated or not. And I don't think those things are too much to ask. We didn't come in to talk about immigration. We didn't come in to talk about flat earth or any of the other issues that people are raving on about. Although the immigration one is a big one. But at the end of the day, this battle ain't over yet. The fat lady hasn't sung by any means. And we're not going to let up until that happens. You know, for me, the day I'll hang up the Club Grubbery shingle is when Johnny Larder puts his paramedic uniform back on again. Yeah. And that's the way it should be. So let me pray this one to a close, and we'll come back for a final comment. Lord Father in heaven, a lot of people don't believe in you, and that's fine. They are where they're at. But right now, Lord, I just want to ask you in particular to put your loving arms around Aneeta. Father, she's a very special lady. She's one of many people who are doing this. But at the moment, she just keeps charging on, and she needs all the love and support she can get. And Father, you don't give us anything to deal with that we can't handle, and you sure have equipped her in particular. So for all the people that she and Rosemary and Michael and all the other people who on the Vaxxed Bus tour have been encountering on their journey, Lord, we ask you to watch over them as well and to give them a sense of peace as they confront the issues that lay ahead of them. And all we want, Lord, is truth that will save lives. We're not after retribution as such. That's something down the road that you can handle. But we just want remedy. We want remedy, Father, because people are dying. Full stop. That's it. There is no other result. So please be with us, we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Rosemary Marshal. It's been a real pleasure. You're a champion.
Thanks for having me on, having us both on.
Aneeta, there's not enough words.
Yeah.
Just saving the babies, Hoody. I'd say the one good thing we saw on tour, the young mums that came with their unvaccinated babies and their little twinkly eyes, and they're engaged and they're beautiful. And I fawned over them a little bit too much, but yeah, there is a lot of good things out there. It's just, and the people were lovely. As horrific as it was, you get the most amazing hugs, and you know that, Hoody and John, the most amazing hugs. Yeah. You meet the best people. So yeah, it's amazing, really.
You do. Australia, we just got to love it. If you love it, stand up for it. And do so compassionately and lawfully, for goodness sake, please. Anyhow, Johnny Larder, you've often been heard to say,
you just couldn't make this stuff up.
You couldn't make this stuff up. Stay tuned for the next saga as we talk about the finds from Katoomba, the Blue Mountain Find. Let's see how that goes. Rosie and Aneeta, God love you. You're just amazing women, and we appreciate you. We love you. And Australia, don't forget what you did yesterday got you to today. Let's keep going slowly but surely, doing our own thing, our own way. Everybody's fighting this battle from different perspectives, but we're still in the same fight. God bless you all. We'll see you next time on Club Grubbery. See you, Johnny.
Thanks, Hoody. Thanks, John.